Welcome back to MarkOneModels. Today will be a little bit of a departure from our previous videos. Normally, you'd see me talk about completed builds with a few deviations like what my build area looks like and what kits I'm working on. Instead, I'm going to talk about one build that I'm currently working on, and this one has a deadline. This will be the first installment in the process of this build, so make sure you check back for future episodes for more progress. One of the groups on Facebook that I'm a member of is the Iceman Collections group. It's hosted by Iceman Collections, who make a huge variety of 3D printed parts for model kits. You should go check them out on their website or on eBay, and I'll put those links in the description. The group is basically all of us sharing what we're working on, sharing tips and tricks, and so on. They also have build-off events, and this year I'm participating. The event's theme is Ford trucks and SUVs from 1950 to 1979. It began in early January 2026, and we must complete them before August 31st of this year. I don't care if I win anything, but it's fun to do, fun to push my skills a bit, and I love to see all the cool builds everyone else comes up with. If you're an existing member of the group who's hesitant, or a new member, or someone who ends up joining after watching this video, feel free to join on the build. Now onto my build. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to push myself a bit. That meant it wouldn't be something just box stock, but I also wanted to do something that someone else might not have thought to do. I decided on making a ranchero that never existed. 1978 was the last year for the ranchero, and it was based on the LTD body. I opted instead to go with a Ford Fairmont from Entz Hobbies, and for my bed, the Ford Courier pickup would complete the look. The body lines match up very well. Could I have taken the easier route out by making a Fairmont Durango? Yes, and while those are pretty cool, I wanted a longer bed, so the Courier sealed the deal. Looking over the recommended donor vehicles for the Fairmont's interior and chassis, it was the 90s Mustang kits. So I ordered up one of those, but I also ordered up an interior set from a 79 Mustang Cobra, so it would be period correct. For the engine, I chose to go with the Coyote 5-liter from Iceman Collections, and that would finish up parts that I would need for this build. We'll get back to the build in just a moment, but I wanted to take a moment to remind you that if you like these videos, feel free to give a like and subscribe and share with your friends. Don't forget to make sure your notifications are turned on so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow along on our Facebook, Instagram, and Threads pages, and you can find those on the links in the homepage. Now let's get back to the build. My plan was to cut back the roof from just after the B-pillar to the C-pillar and integrate the C-pillar back into the end of the B-pillar utilizing the window opening. I did my rough cuts with the Dremel tool on the roof and C-pillar and the rest of the body beyond the wheel arches, and I refined those cuts with sanding sticks. When everything squared up pretty well, I attached the rear window frame to the back of the B-pillar with super glue. You'd think the next step would be to attach the bed, but I planned on using the cap that came with the Courier, so that was going to need adjustments to match the slope of the new rear window. I couldn't add the bed of the vehicle until this was complete, because making cuts to the cab makes it shorter, and the bed would have to be adjusted to fit that length. When I went to do these cuts with the Dremel, I ended up on a phone call I needed to take, so instead of the Dremel, I quietly cut these with my razor saw. The sanding sticks cleaned this up nice, and it fit well into the back of the Fairmont window. The other things I needed to do with this cap was to make it fully removable. In the Courier kit, it has windows that extend into a custom bed. I wanted this cap to be flush mount only. I cut the window bottom frames from the custom Courier bed and glued them into the bottom of the window openings in the cap. The cap has a sloping panel line going front to back, and later I'll need to add that back in where I've added those window frames. Speaking of panel lines, the panel lines on the front edge of the cap were lost when it was cut at an angle. I added them back in by sanding down the upper portion of the sides of the cap so they were flush, and then cutting and gluing in pieces of sheet styrene. Next up on my list was dealing with the dirt track wheel openings on the front fenders of the Fairmont. While they're fine, and that's the body that I bought, I kind of wanted this to be more street correct. And I had that Courier truck just for this build, so I decided I'd cut the fenders off the Courier and integrate them into the Fairmont wheel openings. I was liking the way the razor saw worked earlier, so I chose that for this job too. I marked the center of the wheel arches on both the Fairmont and Courier, and that would be my anchor point. I sanded the Fairmont body to make the Courier fenders fit in. The Courier fenders were not as curved at the bottom to those of the Fairmont, so I carefully bent them in until they lined up. With that, the panels were super glued in. Finally, we're onto the bed. I made my marks in pencil on the Fairmont body for where the bed would sit, based on the cap's final location. The razor saw made quick work of the resin body. Again, I cut slightly off to allow room for correction, which I would address in sanding. To make sure all the body lines were good, I cut masking tape and placed it along each of the body lines on both the Courier bed and the Fairmont. I sanded the Fairmont until the tape lines matched up. So that is as far as I've gotten on this build. It's early February, so I've still got plenty of time. What are your thoughts so far? I have not made decisions on wheels or color yet, so if you have some opinions on that, I'd love to read them too. Once I've made more substantial progress, you'll be able to see that here on a new video. Thank you for watching MarkOneModels.